Now on the couch with us, we have back finally Dan Meyer, and he's taking a trip to Israel. That's why he's not been with us the last few weeks. But thanks for coming on and speaking.
Always glad to be here. Yeah, the last couple of weeks we were kind of out of touch.
Yeah.
And over in Israel, we had a group of 23 folks.
Wow.
Fabulous trip. Definitely, this is not a trip, at least from our perspective, was not a trip that we just took to go see sights.
Right.
It was really a pilgrimage, if you wish, to the Holy Land, which is what Israel's known as. And we spent 5 days out in country and then 5 days in Jerusalem itself.
Oh, wow.
We were actually at the border with Syria, probably about 25 miles away from Damascus the day before the missile strike took place over there, but never felt threatened or anything like that. We saw a lot of tank movement and the like, but it's a very, very safe place to be, and but it was a great trip. And one of the things I always try to draw from trips or experiences like that are what are some nuggets that are good for how do they apply to my life, and how can I help them apply to somebody else's life. So I just want to share some ideas about business tips from an Israel trip.
Okay.
Okay, just
very
some things to learn. And number one is to plan ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd probably be helpful.
I mean, tell you, if you plan ahead, everything goes smoother. The journey goes smoother. If you already have arrangements made and reservations and transportation and all those kind of. So it is in business. If you have an issue coming up, the more you plan ahead, the more smoothly will the transition go, the change go, the planning for that change go. So always smart to plan ahead.
Right.
Second, it may take a while to get there. You don't get to a destination overnight. In fact, it took us, that was a 12-hour flight.
Is that the longest flight you've ever been on?
Yeah, that's the longest flight. And then, of course, that was just from Newark to Tel Aviv. We had to get to Newark, too, so the day was a long day. But important to realize that change doesn't happen overnight. We don't get ourselves into problems overnight, and we can't expect to get out of them. Or we can't expect to see transitions just take place instantly. It doesn't happen that way. It takes some time, and it's that planning. We flew over 5,000 miles in 12 hours, and you know they planned ahead, too, because you know they had enough fuel on that plane, extra, that if something came up and had to be diverted, we'd be able to still get there. You don't come skidding in for a landing running out of fuel like you cross the finish line in a NASCAR race, hoping you got enough in the tank.
Hoping you can make it,
So it takes a while to get to your destination. Third, when you arrive, when you are dealing with an issue, or when you arrive on a trip like this, things don't always appear the way you had thought they were.
Right.
We have preconceived notions.
Yeah.
I mean, if I mention Israel to you and ask you what are the first things that pop into your mind, you might say, "Ooh, I'd be worried about security."
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, probably. Or you might say, "I don't know. It's desert area over there.
Yeah, is it safe?
Is it safe?" Those are all preconceived notions.
Right.
And sometimes those preconceived notions keep us inactive, so we don't even pursue something. So there are a lot of preconceived notions that need clarifying or correcting. Israel is arid in some points, and in other places, incredible agriculture, just everywhere around you. So be careful of approaching an issue with preconceived notions without a willingness to clarify or correct them when you're confronted with them. Another thing, there are going to always be arid times or dry times and fruitful times. Life is not a constant, steady upward. You're going to experience that, right?
Yes, that's right.
And so,
Yes.
I mean, you've planned to move, so there are going to be ups and downs to that move.
Yeah, of course.
And so just as it is in Israel, there are some very dry places and very lush places. So there will be on a journey through dealing with a change or implementing a new program or things like that. Another thing that I really learned this time is to enjoy the journey. Sometimes we're so focused on the goal that we forget how we're getting there.
Right.
this was our second trip. And so this time it was nice for my wife and I to step back and see kind of things big picture, as opposed to seeing everything through a camera lens. First trip I probably took 600-700 pictures. This trip I took about 300. Very different. Or if you could look at your children's albums, picture albums. The first child, man, you've got shelves of albums. The second child, maybe half of that. And the third child, maybe half of that. So, you know, so getting back and realizing the big picture of things was very important. And enjoy the journey. So you look at things that come up as opportunities, not as obstacles. Another thing is be an expert in your field. If you're going to navigate some change wherever you are, you need to be sure that you're the expert. We had an expert with us. His name was George, and he was our guide. He was a graduate of Hebrew University in archaeology, excuse me. Spent 2 years studying for his license to be able to be a guide. He was encyclopedic. It was like drinking water from a fire hydrant.
So he knew every question.
You name it, he knew it. He knew it through different periods of history. He knew it from the Greek Orthodox perspective, the Jewish perspective, the Protestant perspective. He just knew it. He was the expert. Very important when you address, when you're on a journey, that you become as knowledgeable as possible. And with computer now, it's easier to have knowledge at your fingertips.
Oh, yeah.
No question about it. Another thing is take some folks along with you on the journey. We enjoyed that. We had 22 friends or 21 friends that went with us. Had a great time. If you're planning a change in your business, you got to be sure you're taking your employees along with you, or the important people in your business along with you, so that they're on the team. Right. Because if you don't, then you can have some accidents, you can have some injuries, you can have some arguments, you can have some things get derailed. So take the team along with you, include them, and appreciate each team member for his talents. Because if you got a team, everybody's playing a different position. George, our guide, was one, but we also had another fellow whose name was George, and he was the bus driver. I wouldn't want to drive over there for anything.
I wouldn't either.
And he's driving a full-size bus through the narrowest streets you can imagine with great expertise. So appreciate everybody's contribution to the project. Tomorrow, remember, as we went there, that tomorrow is built on today, which was built on yesterday. We looked at some of the architectural ruins, archaeological ruins, and we could literally see one civilization on the next, on the next, as many as 7 different generations, if you wish, of civilization, one on top of the other. So we need to remember that we really are building on what's come before us. So don't just always throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just don't throw out where you are. Right. Build on it. And it may even take some excavating. It may even take some demolition. Sometimes you got to tear something down in order to build it up stronger. Right. And we saw that in the architecture there. There are going to be highs and lows on every trip. We saw Mount Hermon, which is 6,000 feet, and then we went to the Dead Sea, which is 1,200 feet below sea level. Wow. So every journey is going to have its highs and its lows, and its ups and its down. Another important thing that we learned on this trip that I would encourage you when you're working through plans with your business is allow some time for some solitude where you can get away, really analyze things, really think things through. So often we get caught up in the process that we just don't see that big gestalt and how everything fits together. Right. So some time for some solitude, refreshment, if you wish, is a good thing. And always remember the why you're doing something, not just the what I'm going to do and who's going to do it, how they're going to do it. Remember the why. The motivation. Motivation is the most important thing that will get you to the accomplishment of a task. All right. When you've reached your goal, celebrate. So we've had a great time since we got back with the folks that we went. We're just having a super time together. We've planned a meal. We're going to get together and we're going to have pita and hummus and all that stuff that we ate over there. And
we're living it.
Yeah, exactly. And then the most important, or maybe not the most, but maybe one of the real important things is after you've celebrated, then plan ahead for the next undertaking or the next trip, if you wish. Because life is that way. There's always going to be something out in front of you that you need to be planning for. So just trying to tie some things, some lessons learned that we saw over in Israel to how do we address business issues even, and how do we address change and new things, because we're in a fast moving pace right now. Change is just whoosh, time is going by so quickly.
I really liked all those. They made a lot of sense.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. And it gave me pause to stop and think about what are some things that would be good for decision making ahead. Let me tell folks that next Thursday from 5 to 7 we'll be having our May after hours, and it will be at the Boone Chamber in our parking lot, and the Boone Independent Restaurants are co-hosting it with us, and they'll be there with some of their fare. So it's $5 and a business card. We invite our members to be there certainly. If you have interest, give us a call at 264-2225, and we'll look forward to business after hours next week and be planning ahead for your next challenge in business or your next trip, wherever that may take you.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you.
To Charleston.
Yes, that's
To
right.
Charleston.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer, for
Thank you
coming
for coming on,
and
yeah.
Always a
sharing your
pleasure.
trip with us.
Always a
especially.
pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll be back in a minute with more MTN Channel 18.